Hello, Too Much Woman. Today,
Hello.
today's conversation is for the woman who's been told that she's too sensitive, too emotional, too intense, or just too much. I'm joined by Tricia Sabine, the powerful voice behind a deeply personal journey of becoming. Ooh, I'm already getting emotional. One that spans divorce, rediscovery, metaphysical wisdom, and ultimately radical joy. Her book invites women to come home to themselves. And today we'll talk about what it means to stop apologizing for your fullness and finally live as the too much woman you were born to be. Tricia, thank you for joining me.
Happy to be here.
I can't believe I've started crying.
That happens to me a lot. I always say that just all my emotion comes out in tears. So if I start tearing up, now I don't have to feel bad. You've just given me permission to to let that go.
Tricia, you wrote a book for yourself, I think it was, initially, Becoming Self-Centered, a book about your journey to your own personal power. What prompted you to write this book, Tricia?
I had actually no plans to write a book. It just kind of I was journaling and um it was coming out and I just started telling my story. I don't can't even explain how it happened. And it just all came together as a book. And I had only planned to share it with like my mom and my cousin and my close friend. It wasn't ever supposed to go out there. And, the more I shared it with different people who read it, the more they were saying, you have to release this. I'm getting little nuggets of things in this, and more women need to hear your story. And I was like, okay. So I released it a little bit on Facebook and just told a few friends, hey, I've written a book. You guys like to read it? And a few people did, and they were saying the same thing. So I thought, okay, here we go. Just put it out there.
Well, that's exactly what my reaction was after I read it. And it's like, that you really need to get this published.
Well, I've done it, and it's really only taken a few months, but I've never published anything before. I've never written anything before, so I'm still in the process of learning, how to make an EPUB file, how to upload it on these sites. So it's just been a big adventure.
Excellent. Trisha, in your first chapter, Liberation, what was the declaration that set you free?
For me, it was that man will never threaten me with divorce again. And, every marriage has its ups and downs. We all get in our little patterns of, how things play out. And in mine, it had gotten to the point where my husband was the breadwinner and I was the homemaker. And so we both felt like it was my job to take care of everyone and everything. And I loved my job. Like, I wasn't unhappy. I didn't feel taken advantage of. It was nothing like that. I loved him. I wanted to be married forever. But every time, and we didn't even fight that much, but every time there was a disagreement, and I mean like small, he would just threaten divorce because he knew I would jump into action and fix it, figure out what was making him unhappy and fix it.
Mm.
So the last time was just a declaration to myself, like, this is insane. What are we even you're threatening divorce over this petty issue, and I just decided I was stepping off the merry-go-round. And
Excellent.
I don't know how else to describe it, but I had expected we've been married for 22 years. I expected it to be a long grieving process. I expected to be devastated. You see people that go through divorce that their life just feels wrecked and out of control for so long. And the weird thing for me was as soon as I said that to myself, I just felt lighter and freer and like, oh, this is the right, and I just knew it was the right thing. So it was really unexpected. And I'm sharing this because somebody out there might be experiencing something similar.
Yeah, making a decision brings great relief, doesn't it?
Yeah, just as things progressed and, things unfolded, I just kept feeling like I have all this time and energy and love and effort that I have been pouring into him. And I have, sorry, two two kids, two grown adult kids. One of them has autism and the other one has Asperger's. Um, and so I always thought I was making all this effort for my family. And it turned out that when he left, there was a lot less effort that I was having to make. So I was surprised at how much was going into him specifically. And after you're through it and you look back, you start to understand more things, right?
Mhm.
And the one thing that I had understood is that I always felt like I wasn't enough. And I was trying to compensate for that by making more effort. If I just made more effort, I just worked on myself, if I was just a little bit better at this, then he would love me, then he would wanna stay, then he would stop threatening me with divorce. So, I'm like, I had been spinning my wheels for so very long, and I didn't even know it because it becomes the norm. It's just the way your life is. You don't even know that you're doing it anymore. So when I stepped off of that, like, hamster wheel is kinda what I call it,
Mhm.
I just couldn't believe how much time and space I had in my life. It was crazy, and how much better things got, and people were like, "Wow, you're really happy, like, I've never seen anybody move through a divorce like this," and I really was. I was really happy, and it was also a lot of the work I had been doing because I just decided in that moment all that love, all that energy, all that effort that I was putting into him, I just decided I was gonna put it into me, and that was where that's where everything shifted.
Absolutely brilliant. You speak so beautifully about rituals and alignment, Tricia. What sacred practices helped you remember yourself after the divorce?
You know, that's such, a loaded topic for me because right off the bat, I just started noticing I've always been a believer that you choose. You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be unhappy. I mean, we all have circumstances that make it easier or harder, but you have the choice to feel a little bit better or not. And that's just a personal belief of mine. I'm not saying it's right for everybody or it works for everybody, but for me, I just chose that I was going to put this effort into me. So it started just sitting up in bed. I mean, for 20 years, I jumped out of bed. I made hot breakfasts for everybody. I packed people's lunches and his too, and the kids, and got them on the bus and made sure he got everything he needed for work. And then after that dust settled, then I would do the dishes and start my shower. So it was noon before I could really focus on me. And all of a sudden, I sat up in bed one morning. I was like, I don't have to jump out of bed and do anything. Like, what's more luxurious than being able to sit in your bed and not have to get up and rush out the door or rush into the kitchen or whatever you're doing? So for me, that was like the first thing, just sitting up in my bed thinking, because my kids at this time were like 18 and 19 years old. So they didn't need me to rush down and make them breakfast. And I know I'm getting a little off topic, but they're at the age where they need to learn to do that for themselves. So by me catering to
Mm.
them wasn't really helping them as much as my heart wanted to believe. So that was the first thing, was just taking time for myself to just breathe. And then I started learning meditation, which helped a lot, just getting my mind slowing down and enjoying the peace and quiet. And everything just kind of took off from there. I started doing like exercise. I just started adding to my mornings because I really am a believer in front loading your day. So if you wake up and you choose you're going to have a good day and you're going to do the things that make you feel good, then your day is probably going to have a better chance of being good.
Mhm.
So I just chose to just sit up in my bed. I chose to meditate. Sometimes I didn't feel like meditating. I decided to scroll. So I have my life set up where all my connections are on Facebook. But on Instagram, I only have like a few people that have friended me. So I just mostly like pages that are positive. So if I want to scroll on something, I scroll on that because it's feeding my mind with positive messages. So I would do that. And then I got into moving my body, putting on some music I like and just moving around. And then I started doing some yoga. And I'm a big believer in affirmation. So we're talking to ourselves all day long. There's always that voice in your head. Whether you know it's happening or not, it is.
Mm.
So I decided I was going to write the script. So I started putting affirmations to everything, to things in my house, to like pictures, to stones and crystals, to the movements I was doing, like everything in my mind. I was almost chanting to myself. It sounds a little out there, but it was so working for me. So then I just started, doing that every day. And then all that time when, in the daytime, I started like just tuning into really powerful messages from people who were speaking about just the law of attraction, the way the universe works, astrology, tarot, like all this stuff that feels really out there. But I just decided I was gonna tune in and see what resonated and take it and apply it. So that's kind of what I just started doing, and it took off from there.
I love it. What was there a moment in your journey, Trisha, when you realized that being too much, it wasn't the problem? It was actually your superpower.
Yeah, that happened, it all kind of blends together right now because you know how it is, your life just takes off and you're like you just things come towards you that you understand differently. My moments of that were when I started embracing being selfish. That always seemed like a dirty word, like you're supposed to be selfless, and I was, like, I took care of my family, I took care of my friends, I showed up for my parents, like, I am actually a caretaker as a profession. I help, teach adults with autism and other disabilities how to do independent living things so that they can one day be independent and have an independent life. So I'm a natural caretaker. I had been selfless and I had really enjoyed it and thought that made me feel good. But when I turned the script around and thought, what if I took care of me first? This is what I'd started doing. And all of a sudden, like, I was like, selfish is such a beautiful word. So when I started owning words like selfish and self-centered and full of myself, it was like, who is this person? And, that felt like a superpower, not apologizing for things anymore. And the interesting thing too is just it snowballs. So I've been heavy ever since I had kids. And I've always, you have this vision of your body as not being good enough. And most of us do, whether we're thin or not. But I had held this vision for so long. And I just decided I'm done with that. So I've started looking in the mirror and telling myself, you know, you are fabulous. And I started dressing fabulous and I started telling myself things that I had wanted to hear for a long time from other people and that I just didn't. And really just started like loving my body and appreciating like how amazing is it that we get this body that can heal itself, that can do all these things, that can carry us through life and all the things that I hadn't appreciated because I was too busy feeling not good enough.
Mm.
And when I started feeling good enough, it just all came up and I started feeling just beautiful and amazing and like I have this fabulous life and it kind of radiates from you. And so that actually turned into a superpower because I became a much more confident person in that.
That sort of leads me into my next question, which is what parts of yourself did you once mute that you now celebrate out loudly?
Everything. My ex was very, very, very intelligent, and he prided himself in that, and he had a hard time, being wrong, so I learned along the way, and this is part of reframing things in my mind. Like, I could look at that and say, boy, he was kind of a jerk that way, or, label it as him being the villain. And I don't see it that way. It was such a gift because what I learned to do, since I couldn't like speak up and say, you're wrong, or this is not right, or anything like that, I started looking at my part in things. So I may not have caused this problem, but I can find my part in it and I can fix it. And so that actually turned into a superpower of its own, because when you're blaming someone else, you're saying, I can't fix this problem, only they can. It's their fault. But if you say, okay, this is my part in it, that's the part I can change and I can make things better for myself. So I just started looking at that as another superpower. Like, I could just take responsibility for anything and change it and make it the way I wanted to, and it just started working out for me.
Yeah, because when you take your part in it, you take your power back. Isn't that right?
Yes, and there's so much power and personal responsibility, so much. I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, like, everything's clearer looking back, and writing the book really helped me see some of the things that had just happened that I didn't fully recognize, and thought, that is actually a superpower. And I used to, not put that out there. I used to mute myself, and I didn't want. One of the things he had told me through our marriage is that it was kind of despicable that I want to be right at all costs. And what I've learned since then is that people project. So that was him. He needed to be right. But I took it on as like, this is a flaw. And, don't sound intelligent. You don't speak your mind, because you don't want to be like that. And so I did mute that for many years. And when he left, I just stopped. And I just started speaking my mind. And I mean, look at me, I've written a book. I didn't even know I had that in me.
I'm so proud that you're free, Tricia.
Thank you.
Radiance is a powerful word that you use in your book. What does it mean to you to live radiantly and unapologetic as a woman?
So for me, that means you're just radiating from the inside out. Like, a lot of people, I know when I felt insecure, I projected confidence to try and, I didn't want people to know that. And a lot of us do that. We compensate for what we believe our flaws are. But when you do the work on your inside, when you change the script, you change what you're telling yourself, you start believing better about yourself, it's a different kind of vibe that you show up with, and it just comes from the inside. Like, you're not faking it to make it. You're no longer like trying to pretend you're confident when you're not. It's just radiating from the inside out. That's the best word I can describe it. And at first, it's something that I practiced and I did deliberately. But over time, it just became my baseline, and now I just feel that way all the time. I don't really have to think about it. I don't have to like put a lot of effort into it. It just happens. So I kind of feel radiant in my life. And that's not something that most people feel comfortable saying, because we all want to appear humble, but it's just how it is now. So I don't apologize for that anymore.
Well, this is not the channel for you if you're into humility. We're here to sum it up.
Right? I love that about your channel. Thank you for doing this.
Trisha, in the chapter of seasons, you write about seeing your life in phases. How can we embrace our own messy middles and not rush to fix it?
So that's hard for me. I don't see myself in a place to like give advice or anything like that. I just kind of shared my story, and some of the things I did worked for me, and if they work for other people, great, but everyone has to kind of find their own way, and it'll look different for all of us. But when you're in the middle of something, or when I'm in the middle of something, I always give myself permission to feel it. I'm not one of those people that, well, I'm just going to put on my happy face and go about my business. I mean, we have to actually take the time feel what we're feeling, understand why. And the other thing is that I've learned to apply to my life is that everything is happening for a reason. It's all true. So at some point, I'm going to back at this and see the growth, see the gifts in this experience. So whatever I'm experiencing, I just assume like I'm getting something out of it. What is it? Like I get excited about that stuff. I'm like, bring it on. What am I supposed to release? What am I supposed to learn from this? What's the gift in this? So that's my place that I go to when things aren't going the way I would like them to. You know, we all have health struggles. We have things that happen with relationships and friends. And I mean, I'm not immune to that just because I'm in a better place now. But when those things do happen, I just greet them almost with excitement. Like if we went through our whole entire life and nothing ever rocked the boat, we would stay stagnant.
Mm.
So these experiences and the middle parts and the parts that don't feel really good, that's where the growth is at. That's where we can just figure out what we're supposed to get from it and like you level up in those times. That's the best word I have for it. So I kind of embrace those for me.
There's that saying, a calm sea doesn't make for a strong sailor, something to that effect.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, totally.
Looking back on your marriage, and I think you mentioned, just touched on this already, but what are you seeing clearly now, only after stepping away? And how has that clarity reshaped your sense of self?
Well, I've reshaped it a lot of times. So, at first, when I stepped out of my marriage, I talked about just having all this free time. I didn't even know how much time and energy and love I was devoting to somebody who wasn't giving it back. So, when I first stepped away, that's what I noticed. But then other things started happening. You start realizing that, or I did anyway, that this person I chose to be with was a mirror for me. So nobody can make me feel any way about myself that I don't already feel. And I started really understanding like the law of attraction and alignment. And I know these words are thrown around on YouTube and like there's a lot of people explaining them. But when you really understand them, you see how they are present in everything. At the time my ex and I met, I believed that I was unworthy. I didn't think I was good enough. I thought I was less than. I thought I was lucky to have him. And he believed that too. So we were a match. Like, we were a match in every way. We just aligned. And when you work on yourself and you no longer believe that, what happened for me is he exited my life because we were no longer a match. So when I look back, there's just so much that comes up for me. I've learned a lot about like people believe in different things, and I believe that as a soul, we kind of plan what we would like to experience in this lifetime before we incarnate here. That's just my personal belief. And so when you think about that and we make contracts with other souls, like I want to experience this, and they're playing their role, I started seeing him in that light too. Like maybe we had a soul contract. Maybe we were supposed to like trigger these things in each other for our growth. So I actually went from looking back, seeing like the waste, the time and energy, to
Mm.
looking back and seeing the gifts, to looking back and seeing like this person was an important part of my life and an important part of my growth. If I hadn't met him, I wouldn't even know any of this stuff. Maybe if I had had a great relationship that was smooth sailing, would I have learned any of this? Would I have become the person that I am? I wouldn't have. I would have just stayed in the, like happy, blissful ignorance. I don't say that in a negative way, but just not knowing
Mm.
how much power we have and how much influence we have over our own lives. So
And that,
looking back, it's just so much. And I remember at one point, I did write about this in my book. I made a conscious choice to forgive him because in the divorce, I had been divorced once before and we just split and we made sure, everybody was taken care of. And I've seen other people do this. And I just always assumed, that divorce can happen to anybody. And I always assumed like if we got divorced, that's what we would do. But, like, he was it I can't even explain, and I don't want to, but it was really ugly and nasty, and I remember just he was repulsive to me for a long time. But then at one point, I decided that I was going to, consciously forgive him, and I had seen some stuff and read some stuff about this, and I thought, "I'm gonna do this." So I sat down and I just, in my meditation, pictured, "I forgive you," and I pictured all this good stuff happening for him. I hope he finds love. I hope he feels happy. I hope he has a great house and a great life, and just pictured all this really good stuff happening for him. And it was really life changing because I no longer had to carry this resentment or anything else. So I started just forgiving him for everything and really, really meaning it, like picturing all this good stuff happening to him. And then later on in my journey, I started really just loving him, not in a like, I want you back kind of way, but in a way that was like, thank you for playing that part in my life. Just really thank you. Look at I couldn't have done this without you. Like I was really grateful for him instead of resentful. I was not just forgiving him, but I was just really grateful for him.
And that gratitude just frees you, doesn't it?
It is. It is. There's so
Liberating.
much freedom.
Yes.
Mhm.
In your chapter called Powerful, Becoming the Author of Your Own Story, what would you say is the difference between surviving your story and writing a new one from a place of power?
So we're all going from a story, right? You have a story about yourself and why you are the way you are. And I have a story about my life and why I am the way I am. And we all know people who come from a place of victimhood and people who come from, different things. And the way we tell our story is how we see ourselves. That becomes our identity. So in the beginning, I was a wife and mom, just nothing special. And when you start telling your story differently, like that's so much where the power is. Um, you can see I could have seen myself as the victim and him as the villain, but I decided that wasn't my story, and I rewrote it in my head, that this is how I became who I was. So I just wrote it in a different way. Instead of telling my story as being the victim, I told my story as look at all the things I got from this. Look at where I've gotten from this. So I don't know if I'm doing a really good job of explaining it, but, just how we tell our stories, it just changes how we shape our identity, and you move from that place of your identity. So, I mean, look at what story if you're not happy with where you're at, just look at what story you're telling yourself and about the people in it.
Mm.
It's natural for us to want to blame other people and not take responsibility for our part. But we all have our own part in everything. So the minute you start retelling it where um, you take personal responsibility for everything, that's when you start having the power to tell your story differently and be in a different place with it.
And then telling it like you want it to be.
Yes, exactly. And you see yourself differently. You
Mhm.
see yourself differently based on the story you're telling yourself. I mean, I went through a period of my life where I was severely disabled. I don't want to go into all the details because that's a long one. But for 4 months, I couldn't get out of bed. I mean, when I sat up, the world would spin. It was really horrible. And I can look back and tell that story as this was a horrible thing, right? And it happened to me and I was powerless and it was awful. But what I do look back in my own mind, I see like I learned that my body is amazing. Like it heals itself. I started learning how to just really appreciate doing little things I had resented doing things like laundry and dishes before that. And when I couldn't do those things for a long time and I was feeling like a failure, the minute I could start doing those again, I was like, oh, this feels amazing. Like there were so many gifts in that period of disability for me. So I can look back and I can tell my story about how awful that was. And that's true. But I can also look back and tell my story as how much I learned from that, how much I love my body now, how much I love being able to do things. Able is such a strong word for me now, where before I just took it for granted. Of course, everybody can do this. Everybody can do shopping and drive their cars and be a mom and all that. But when you have that period of not being able to, you start appreciating being able to more. So how you tell your story, it just makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. So if you had to sit with a woman who's feeling a bit flat, disconnected, or a little bit out of touch with her own personal fire, what would you whisper to her, Tricia?
Just find your amazing because we all have it. Like, how many of us can say, oh, I'm really not good at this, or I need to work on that, right? It just flies out of our mouth because we want to be humble.
Mm.
But how many of us can say, I'm amazing at this, or I'm amazing at that? So, whatever, and we all have some of both. We all do. And so find your amazing and lead from there. Like look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself how amazing you are because I've spent a lot of years wishing he would notice things about me and wishing he would tell me. And you can do that for yourself. I wrote about in my book, so this is repetitive for anybody who's read it. But at one point in my journey, I found this picture of this woman standing in a field of flowers, and she was picking her own flowers. And she wasn't like smiling like for a picture. She was just looking content, and you could see that she was content for picking her own flowers. And to me, that popped into my head like, pick your own flowers. Just do it for yourself. You don't need to wait for somebody else to tell you you're amazing. You don't need to wait for somebody else to tell you you're beautiful. You can do that for yourself. You don't need to wait for somebody else to rub your feet or do things for you. I just started picking my own flowers. And so if you're in that spot, that's the best thing we can do for ourselves is look at ourselves and tell ourselves that we're amazing. And I think the more we do that, especially when we learn to do it out loud, which for me came a lot later, um, I think it's amazing. And like what you're doing, we're giving other women permission to do the same thing. And not like they need permission, but when you normalize talking good about yourself and leading with like, you know what, I'm really good at managing my finances. I've um helped a friend with her finances because I just said that. Every time you lead with something that you're good at or that does make you amazing, other women, it becomes normalized, and other women and men get the permission to do that too. So I think that's what all of our collective jobs kind of are is to learn how to love ourselves and put ourselves out there.
I really love that. Pick your own flowers. It's now an image in my head that I'm going to keep for myself.
I just
Because it's so perfectly apt and descriptive of how to care or how to unlock yourself.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I described in my book like all of my art to me, all of my plants, all of my crystals, every piece of decor in here, like it goes back to we're all talking to ourselves all the time in our heads. And when you learn to use affirmations and change the script and tell yourself good things, it's so beneficial. But that takes you have to think about those things. But if you say, here's a piece of art and this is what it represents, and it's an affirmation, now every time you see that just out of the corner of your eye, it's the affirmation. You are just making it so effortless to have these affirmations coming at you. So most of the things in my house have an affirmation attached to them. And nobody has to know. I mean, you can tell people if you want to, but nobody has to know you're doing it. It's just something that really helps because you're getting these messages all the time. And you don't even have to work for it or remember it or think about it or anything like that.
Complete the sentence, Trisha. The too much woman is?
Amazing. Like I get so almost giddy happy when I see women stepping up and being too much. Like, I just wanna clap, I wanna be their friend. It's something that it wasn't possible, 50 years ago, and we've come so far, and it just makes me feel happy. It just makes me feel like I wanna clap for her, and I have somebody who walks around my neighborhood, and she's heavy set like me, but when you drive by, she's not, like, exercising to exercise, she's, like, smiling at people and stuff, and I think, "I wanna be her friend, that's a too much woman." She knows. She doesn't have to be thinner to be, you know, have people like her and wanna be her friend. So that's I don't know, that's what it stirs up in me.
It's fantastic. And in addition to that, she's happy, and that's what counts.
Yes.
Trisha, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your truth. Your journey is such a powerful reminder that our too muchness is exactly the very thing that the world needs more of. Tell me, where can people find your book or connect with you or follow along with what you're doing?
I now have a Linktree page, and I believe you can put that at the bottom of this video. And basically, I've published a book. So there's a link to it on that page. But also, if you go to Apple iBooks app or Amazon Kindle or Google Play, Google Play isn't live yet. They're still reviewing my book. But if you go to any of those sites and you put in "becoming self-centered" in the search bar, my book will come up. And I'm not doing this to really make money. I don't consider myself an influencer. I just put it out there because people were giving me that feedback that it's an important message for people. So it's free where I could make it free. Amazon Kindle requires it to be at least 99 cents. So that's what I put in there for that.
Fantastic. And we'll leave the link in the description below.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Trisha. Subscribe for more conversations with women who are done dimming their light.